Ladies and gentlemen, it's the Big Jiu-Jitsu Show. I'm Rob.
I'm Randy.
And today we have not one, but two guests. They're both from the Sunday service. If you're not familiar with the Sunday service, it is one of the hottest events around North Carolina right now, getting to train with a bunch of competitors. We've talked about it a few times on the show with a couple of guests. But today I have Dakota McFadder and Tony Russo on the show. So, gentlemen, thanks for taking time out of a busy Saturday. So I feel like Saturdays are usually pretty busy for the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu community for some reason.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's when everyone has their open mats in general. I know I have some privates later today to do, but yeah, people like to stay busy on Saturdays.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I think about too. Is like, but you guys do a Sunday open mat, but we'll get to that in a second. So it's going to be kind of an experiment. Like I said earlier, it's been a while since we've had two different people on the show. So we're going to go one by one, I guess, just give like a good, background of your martial arts experience, where you came from. So Dakota, I'll go with you first. Like if you could just kind of introduce yourself to the listeners and how you got started jiu-jitsu and where you're at now.
Yeah, man. So yeah, obviously my name's Dakota McFadder. So I've been doing jiu-jitsu about 8 years now. I'd grown up doing Taekwondo. I feel like it's kind of the route, most people go. And then when I was 23, when I started jiu-jitsu, and I was kind of, I don't know, I had this little epiphany that I was like, I had this, kind of BS black belt in Taekwondo, and really couldn't do anything with it. And I was like, I just need to get back into some sort of martial arts. And, obviously I feel like the path that kind of led me here was probably just UFC and things like that. I was like, oh, well, jiu-jitsu seems to be cool. Let me, it's like the opposite of what I was doing before. Let me give this a try. And I just, the first day I walked into a gym, the first gym I started at was called RIMA, the Raleigh Institute of Martial Arts. And it happened to be the first place that I called. And I walked in, I loved it instantly, and then just have been training as much as I can, for the last 8 years now. And, started competing as soon as I could. And these last probably 4 years, started coaching and things like that as well.
Awesome. It's kind of cool to hear Rima mentioned every once in a while. Not that I ever trained there, but just like it's like an old institute, it's the Raleigh Institute of Martial Arts. It's like one of the older ones here. So
yeah, so they were, after I started, now looking back on it, I kind of see they're really big in their like kickboxing program. And I think maybe Muay Thai, I don't know if it was just kickboxing or not, but like that's really their bread and butter. Like they do still, I think to this day, have a jiu-jitsu program. But they really, I think they're pretty well known as far as their kickboxing goes.
Absolutely. So that's, like you said, pretty kind of normal pipeline, it seems. Like you said, go do a traditional quote unquote martial art and then move on to jiu-jitsu just because it's different.
Yeah, move on to the real stuff.
Oh, yeah. So Tony, what about you? Why don't you give us your rundown?
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of like Dakota, I did Taekwondo as a little minion as well. I also dabbled in wrestling since middle school. I didn't say I was good. A lot of people like to, when you hear, oh, you wrestled, somebody like, oh, I was really good at wrestling. I was horrible at wrestling, but I did it. Joined the military at 17, did about 13 years as a paratrooper. And as I was getting out of the military, COVID happened. So I didn't start jiu-jitsu until like right after COVID. I'm just under 5 years of formal jiu-jitsu. But in the military, we had combatives programs, MACP, SOCP types of programs that I've attended. So I've always been interested. And kind of when I found a gym as of getting out of the military up in Durham where I moved to, I was just like, I love it. I'm hearing great things about it. It seems to be super fun. I want to get my hands on it. And the moment I did, I haven't stopped.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, I want to ask this question. Like, so Fayetteville your whole time, I imagine, while you were in, or did you get the pleasure of going to Italy or anywhere cool?
Yeah, I was in the 173rd. Actually, my 13-year-old daughter was born in Italy. So I can't leave the 173rd behind. I was all over the place. Started in Korea, ended out with 10th group for about a couple years, I think just under 4 years in Colorado. Did some time at Bragg. Yeah, I got medically retired out of Fort Bragg in 2018. I had an amazing job opportunity right here in the state before I was even done wearing the uniform. So I kind of just stayed. And, the rest is kind of history.
Awesome. Well, it is always cool to hear about, military transition, how like jujitsu sometimes plays into that as well with with the veterans and stuff like that. So I
Yeah.
guess I'll go ahead and throw out the first question for both of you guys. So Sunday service, we've heard it from other people talking about, it's a great place to get experience, work with other high level competitors. I always say that North Carolina is kind of not this weird thing, but more like a anomaly out in the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu world where this state is actually really open to a lot of other gyms, just like coming together, training, having open mats, and not doing the whole like, those guys are bad because, they came under this guy. Like there's not a lot of gym rivalries, it seems. So like how did the concept come together and, what's the focus for that?
So it originally started out as just a regular Sunday class, kind of slash open mat. And it wasn't something I had even picked out. I started coaching over here at Bull and Bear in Fuquay Arena, and they had offered me one of the coaching slots was this Sunday slot at 3 p.m. I was like, I hadn't even thought of like doing something on a Sunday before, but I was like, cool, yeah, like that's a time slot you want to fill, awesome. And so it just started out really small. I mean, maybe 5 people, coming in to kind of just roll, maybe drill some, whatnot. And like I said, I've been doing this for about 8 years now, and ever since I started, I've always made it an effort of mine to like try and be like really embedded in the community. So I've done like a ton of cross training over the years, as many competitions, on all platforms that I could get into. And so I've known a lot of people, become very friendly with a lot of other competitors, things like that. And so I just kind of started reaching out to some buddies like from other gyms and stuff and was like, hey, like, do you guys want to come on Sunday? Like, you just come roll and whatnot. And started having some good friends come through, like Jack Cornwell. I think you guys have had him on. He's real close by, so he started coming pretty often. Some other guys that I train with over by where I live in Wendell. And then just I think kind of a couple others that were fairly local. And it just was kind of working out. Like naturally, not many jujitsu places are doing things on Sundays. And people just had this window of time. I mean, if you go to church, it's like churches in the morning. And so by 3 p.m., I mean, unless you are just, doing something with the family you can't get out of, people had time to train. And so, like I said, we got to like maybe 10 and slowly like 15. And then around that time, Tony was really the one. Like I just kind of thought it was cool. Like we were doing some cool training. Like it was a lot of fun. And Tony was just like, "Hey man, like I think you like we're kind of doing something like special here. Like this is kind of cool. Like we're on to a little bit of something. Not that we even had any vision of it becoming that much bigger, but he at the very least was like, well, let's like make it own like its own separate like social media for it. Like let's kind of promote it a little more. Like really put it out there to get more people to come train since it seems to be a hit already. And I'm not like I just am that guy. I'm not very confident. Everything I do, I'm like, whatever. And so he really like he was the force behind that. He was like, no, like we're gonna promote this. We're gonna put this out there. I was like, cool, you do it, and I'll just keep like kind of running the class. And so he started doing that, and sure enough, it's like people were just seeing the stories on Instagram or whatever it was, and like we started just making it a habit to take a picture after training. And so I think that kind of like naturally creates a little bit of FOMO. Like you see all these guys from different gyms getting together to roll, and you see that it's open and free to anyone. So you're like, oh, like why don't I go in there? And very quickly we started having 20 people show up, 30 people. A lot of my friends like started coming in from Fayetteville, from those gyms, and from other gyms like in the Raleigh area or just Triangle or whatnot. And so all of a sudden I'm looking around, and again we're at like 30 people. I got like four black belts from other gyms on the mats. I got a lot of good competitors, and that's I feel like where the idea really started forming, where it was like, wow, like we do have a lot of high level competitors in North Carolina, and even in this more local area,
Yeah.
that we have access to. And so it's you can only level up as much as you can, like with just your gym and with your group, right? It's like you start, no matter how good you are, at some point I start to know what you're going to do, and I start to develop my defense for it or my counter offense, whatever it is. And so to be able to bring in other high level athletes that you don't normally get to train with. And all of a sudden, like you're seeing them, and that's constantly changing who shows up on Sundays. Now you have a really legitimate, like kind of a competition feel where it's like you have a good competitor across from you, at this, quote, open mat, and you're getting hard rounds in with him. And it's very similar to what you'd see in a competition where, you don't know the guy's style that you're across from. And so, yeah, that started forming even more. And then just to kind of speed it up, it's like it just kept naturally blowing up. Like all of a sudden, we'd have 35, and now it's like at the bull and bear events or classes, we have about 40 plus, which Randy was there, before. Like that's kind of like getting close to the max of like what bull and bear can handle on the mats without just like being on top of each other. And then and at that point though, luckily for us, it's like other gyms were seeing what we were doing, and seeing like even their athletes coming over and stuff like that, and it just the interest just started kind of going off like a little bit of wildfire. And gyms were reaching out like, hey, can we host these events? And then we started doing those, and those are now like 80 to 100 plus people coming out, and we have people coming from Boone, from Charlotte, from South Carolina, from Virginia, I mean just all over. And then we've been able to collab with some really high level athletes so far. Declan Moody, J Rod's come in, Cam Hurd's come in, and I'm sure I'm even missing some others, but Gabriel Sosa's come in. I mean just a lot of high level guys. And so at this point, it's just really taken off on its own. And I think what makes it work so much, which is really where Tony also helps me so much because we're just in such alignment, is we're not trying to get any money out of this. We're not trying to even get anything out of this, really. We just love jujitsu, and we love the scene, and we love giving back. And that's all it's about. And that's all it'll ever be about. And Tony sees it the same way. And so I think that's why people like it. They don't feel like we're trying to get anything. They totally feel like we're just there to hopefully provide a space, provide some good training, some good roles, and and do jujitsu.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can definitely say that, I've been watching it grow on social media, and of course I coach at TFTC, and am busy doing the coaching thing and the policing thing. So, I've been dying to get in there and check it out. I've heard good things about it, and you know, finally made it to one, and brought one of my guys with me, and purposely brought one of my white belts with me because, I think one of the things you guys probably hear often is that some people are intimidated by Sunday service because they think that because you have high level competitors there, that it's going to be this like bully culture or whatever. And, I don't care about that shit. Like I'll come train, so I was like, I'll go, because, we definitely want to look at possibly hosting one at TFTC, which is like an off camera conversation. But, I wanted to make sure that if we do that, we're doing it right by our population. So I'm like, oh, I'll go check it out. Like if I get fucked up, I get fucked up. You know what I mean? It is what it is. Wouldn't be the first time, won't be the last. And honestly, it was a great training experience. Everybody was cool. Awesome. I didn't run into one douchebag on the mat. People are pushing it. People are training hard, which is what you should be doing anyway. But was very, very like happy with the challenge, the fun, the community aspect, how everybody treated everybody. My white belt that came, he works in the police department with me. Nobody bullied him or did any bullshit. Like he came out of there talking about how he wanted to go again. And, it's a phenomenal training environment, a phenomenal training space. I want to hear a little bit about kind of from Tony's perspective as well, how this thing grew. But after that, I think we need to go down the rabbit hole of kind of how you guys set up the training too, because in the beginning, the kind of the precursor to the roles, I thought that was extremely valuable and unique. So definitely some good stuff going on out there.
Yeah, I think while we're on the topic, before I start the growth, I'll key into what you just said there with people getting the wrong aspect of what's going on or people being intimidated and stuff like that. Dakota nailed it, when he said you need to get different exchanges and different looks in order to keep progressing. And if you stay in your club, you're only going to be as good as the other blue belts or purple belts or whatever belt you're at, depending on who you're training with in that gym. Nobody in our community is focused on finishing mechanics because we are not teaching a technique class. right? It truly is a workshop for you to work through your problems from a solution or a scenario that we might create for you. But it really is catch and release. And that is another thing that kind of makes it a very high level training room is you have a lot of very knowledgeable people that are getting the looks they need at a very, very low cost to their partners, if that makes sense. So everybody from kids to white belts that are brand new to extremely seasoned black belts that have been on UFC Fight Pass are going to all come into this workshop and be able to get a value out of it. And like you said, we're going to keep that community too. No douchebags. We're all here to love each other and get better. So I did want to key on that because it is a misconception. We do have a bunch of animals in the house, and if you want to get roughed up, it's there. But if you don't, then you're going to leave, invigorated to come back. But yeah, as it grew, going back to your question, I mean, Dakota kind of nailed it too. I mean, we really just were a Sunday open mat, just a bunch of guys getting together. We were trying to reach out to other gyms and stuff to see who's doing what on Sunday. And it really just took off. So I knew that in order for it to keep taking off, it had to be bigger than Dakota or bigger than me and Dakota or bigger than Bull Bear. It had to be its own or like breathing entity. And I think the moment we did that and the moment we started broadcasting, what we were here to do and what we were trying to achieve, all the other gyms kind of just realized it. Like, this is the way forward for jiu-jitsu. It's not, slowly moving under my one black belt and not being able to go to other gyms. It's not smash talking other gyms or anything like that. It's getting together and figuring out, what holes are you plugging in my game or showing me that I have in my game, and just keep moving as a team.
No, I mean, it is kind of funny because not funny in a sense like a bad way, but we're talking about the douchebag thing because I can always attest that I'm old enough to remember the big tap out affliction, like, the stigma with that way back in the day of like, when the guy comes in with a tap out shirt and tap out shorts and is like, I just watched the first season of The Ultimate Fighter, like, well, I'm needed to tap early, tap often because I'm going to be losing my shoulders here. But
can't let him get close.
Yeah, nah. So I mean, I think some people, because jiu-jitsu inherently is a tough martial art, no matter what. Like, it's not supposed to be something easy. It's supposed to be rough, and it's not just a physical test. It's a mental test, because basically it's like, how long can you just not quit? And I'm not saying like in a submission sense, but in like, you do this for 10 plus years, it's still hard. Like, it doesn't matter like how much help you can get, how, good your recovery is, stuff does hurt. So so I think maybe some of the, like you said, the misconceptions of it is kind of strange, I guess, because I've heard nothing but great stuff about it. And, I still would like to come out and get some rolls in and stuff like that as well. Now with it traveling around, what's the setups like? Like, what are the logistics for something like this? If you guys can go into that, like, how do you guys set these up? How do you kind of figure it out? Is there like a big schedule somewhere? Because I was looking for it so I can kind of plan out some trips and stuff. But like, how's that go down?
Yeah, so I'll just so you guys know too, my role in all this is coaching and running the practice, and and helping, in any way I can to assist Tony. Tony handles like everything on the back end. Like, he's, again, like I always try and like emphasize, like, he is such like the backbone of this, because getting together with gyms, getting the schedule ready, getting that printed up, made, any merch runs we've ever done, any things with like brand sponsorships or anything like that, that's all Tony. So Tony, if you want to explain some of that, so this is your wheelhouse.
So one of the great things about us creating our own social media page for the Sunday service too was it gave a place for gyms and gym owners to try to reach out. Now, Randy, like you were saying, before you bring this over to your institution, you wanted to come check it out yourself and maybe bring an athlete. Probably the best approach ever is to come check something out and be a part of it and stuff like that, right? We have a lot of gyms that's not the case, right? They just see these packed rooms and stuff like that, and they're like, oh, we would love to have you over here. We would love to have that at our gym. And before I knew it, I had, 25, 30 gyms. And Some of them are big, some of them are hole in the walls where, it's smaller than Bull and Bear. It doesn't really make sense, or it equates to Bull and Bear. It doesn't really make sense for us to do it at a place like that. And or we've never really heard of these gyms. Not like never heard of this gym ever, but as far as coming to the community and being a part of it. So I kind of just started kind of making a list, and I think I ended up getting booked out in the Triangle area for like 3-4 months. So we put a pause on it and just called 2025 booked. I think that was back in August that we were booked all the way till December. Same thing. I opened back up in December, and we're now booked till July. And the books are now closed again. We have very prestigious gyms. Most of them are in the Triangle. Some special operations on Fort Bragg. We have Groundstone out in Sneads Ferry, which is at Topsail Beach. So, I mean, we do have a pretty cool beach bash event going on. But at the end of the day, I had to close the books because there's only so much I can plan and so much I can do, with it just being the two of us. I think that kind of helped blow it up as well by, prioritizing gyms and putting gyms on the docket and posting like that there's a couple months of events. That was definitely a huge FOMO builder. We're like, oh man, these guys got a whole thing going on now. One of the ideas that we had too was, we ended up getting some body wipes. And if you've ever seen some of our contents, I mean, we can squeegee sweat off the mats and just like mop it up. It's a real doghouse in there. So we started handing out wipes, and other sponsors and, brands reached out and saw what we were doing. And, fast forward it now, we are officially sponsored throughout the next 12 to 24 months by Defense Soap, Toro BJJ. We have New Hope Regeneration Stem Cells, a local spa here in the area, Degree Wellness, which is handing out free sessions. So we've come to quite a strong position of being able to give back to the community. And that kind of bridges where if people are nervous about getting on the mat, they're like, oh, well, there's barbecue chicken and I can win a knife. And, that also really helps bring the community in. All this is free, to them for them to attend. So it's almost like, why not? And all of that kind of happened organically. Brands that saw what we were doing, same thing with some of the rash guard brands that are local. They wanted their rash guards and dudes wearing their rash guards in our videos and on the mats being seen in these dog houses because it's good promotion for them. So it became a really, really good mutual relationship. Well, it's like, well, I would love to have you out for the athletes, scheduled it all, calendared it all to make it kind of easy for Dakota and I to read. And after that, we just show up, pop our pop-up up, do our drills. There's really not much logistics to it around the calendar, outside of the calendar.
Yeah, really, I love the community aspect of jiu-jitsu. I know Rob's the same way. How jiu-jitsu, just even at its core on the mats, you've got people from all walks of life that are sharing the mats together, just in any gym across America, right?
Yeah.
So when you guys look at what you guys are doing in Sunday service, especially with all these events and the sponsorships and the things that you guys are doing, like I'm all on board for that stuff because I think that's one of my favorite things about jiu-jitsu, aside from just the point of doing jiu-jitsu, right? I love rolling, I love hard work and all that, but what it does for your mind, what it does for your body, what it does for the community. I work in law enforcement, but I don't care if I share the mats with a crook that smokes weed. I don't care. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I just like that it brings all walks of life out on the mat at the same time.
Yep.
And, there was a guy yesterday at my Friday class that I've never seen before. He came over to TFTC and he was talking all about, how he kind of came from a bad place and jiu-jitsu was what he needed to bring him back around. And he had separated from it from a couple of years and then realized that he was going down a negative path again and came back to train. And I don't think he even knows I'm a cop. I didn't volunteer that information because it didn't really matter at the time. Yeah. But it's like we all can agree, right? That jiu-jitsu is a powerful conduit for personal development. And when you guys are doing this thing and bringing all these people in from all across different spectrums to train, it's just a really powerful thing, man. I love what you guys are doing.
Thank you.
Thank you. And yeah, the kind of to go off what you were saying, but also what I was saying earlier was just evolutionarily as this came about. In that midway point where we're like, oh, this is really cool. All these competitors are coming out. Like, this is really high level training. Let's keep pushing this training. Like, and that's kind of where the focus went on. And then and that's what I thought like the focus was going to be as we got bigger, was just like, oh, grow, keep bringing in people from outside, gyms that are like high level. Like, let's just get, really, really good training. And in my mind, almost like the emphasis was almost always a little bit on like competition. Like,
Yeah.
I think these guys, that they train hard enough, with each other, and the competitors from other gyms, like not only are we going to see them like winning the local stuff, we're going to start to see them like on the big stages, like whether it's like, winning more stuff like with ADCC or IBJJF, or,
Mhm.
maybe guys going down to like WNO cards or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And that was kind of like where my mind was. Um, and then I realized more importantly than even that, because I do think that's still something that naturally will happen, but way more importantly than even that, like you just said, the community aspect of it is really what has started like shining through. And the more people that have come up and been like just saying how Sunday service has like helped them get back into jujitsu, or really plug into the jujitsu community. Uh, Parents coming up and being like, "This is so awesome for my kid," or whatever it is, or adults coming back out. Even I mean, we've even had some high level like black belts come out that are just like, yeah, like I just this is kind of what brought me back out to train like nogi again, or whatever it was. Like, everyone has their own reasons and motivations, but hearing all that, and then just us being able to give back through the people that we work with, by doing the giveaways and things like that. Uh, yeah, it's just, I think it's really shown the light on just how important community is in general. Like, it happens for us, like it happens to be through jujitsu, but obviously for many different people. I mean, that's there's different things. But with our thing being jujitsu, the fact that we can use that to help bring people together, and whether it's stuff that they tell us, or maybe just stuff privately, help them get through maybe a tough time, or something they're dealing with mentally, or whatever it is. Like, that's really now where I think our emphasis has shifted to, and it's really cool, and then like even more special for us now to like feel like we're able to maybe give back a little bit in that way. Not to mention, even with all of our latest stuff, every event now is also a canned good drive. And so at this point, the two big events that we just did, I think it's been now a total of over 260 pounds of food that we've been able to donate to like local, um, not shelters, but what am I,
Yeah,
food
food
pantries.
grounds, the cabinet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And so even to like plug that stuff in, it's like it's just really cool. I feel like what you can accomplish when you kind of put your minds, to that, and to help grow the community.
I think there's a responsibility as martial artists, and like I kind of still same thing. I have a taekwondo background, and I did laugh, Tony, because when you said I wrestled but I wasn't good, I was like, that is exactly my story too. Like, I was awful at wrestling, but
I mean, it's still not good.
I know, yeah, there's a reason you don't see many double leg takedowns for me at all. They're just garbage for me, but. I still go back kind of like the thoughts of like what makes a martial artist a martial artist, what makes a black belt a black belt. Like, one of the big things is, giving back to community and stuff like that, and being a pillar of the community, and showing that martial arts can actually change people's lives and help them work through these tough times. And then how do you turn around and, like you said, repay that? So like these canned food drives, that's amazing. I did not know that, and that's pretty amazing for that you guys are doing it. So you said something. I kind of want to look to the future a little bit now. You said something about like a beach bash down there at Sneed's Ferry. So, what are some other like stuff you guys might want to talk about as far as fun plans in the future for Sunday service?
So,
Uh,
or do you
yeah,
want
yeah, Dakota. No, you take it. I don't want to share any secrets. I feel like you guys should.
to? No, so yeah,
I already said
I
too much.
so actually, kind of circling back to what you said about like, you said you were looking for a calendar like with all the events on it and whatnot. One of the things, so we actually don't really share like the full calendar, and one of the reasons that we found is just that it gets confusing for people. I know it's like a thing in the jiu-jitsu community, like jiu-jitsu people are dumb. It's just kind of a funny thing, but there is some truth to it. And we found that like we'd put out specific, stuff on social media, like with the dates at certain gyms. And then we would still get 25 messages like, oh, what day is this event? Or like, and we started being like,
Is that
okay, well,
this
if we
Sunday?
release too much, people are going to get confused and go to the wrong gym. Like, this Sunday, like they're going to go to the wrong gym, and they're going to be all upset because they're sitting in the parking lot wondering why no one's there. And so we've tried to be a little bit more intentional, like each week, or even like 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks out from a big event, like starting to release the info then, and then as it gets closer, just be like more and more like every day, kind of hammering in like, hey guys, it's this weekend. Here's where it is, because we were running into that. But to then fast forward and answer your question, yeah, we're excited. I mean, there's like Tony said, there's a lot of awesome events, at least through July this year. I mean, I don't think is anything necessarily a secret, Tony. I mean, is there?
No, not
I don't
really.
want to give away.
No, we do have, 3 or 4 really big athletes coming out. We have really good academies on the calendar, and we're still in negotiations to even bring out some other athletes. We've been hitting some real big home runs with some guest appearances, and we wanted to keep that going. Again, this is always free to all attending athletes. So really, it mostly depends on Dakota and I's ability to fundraise. And we do that through, our sponsorship items, drops with, Toro rash guards and shirts and stuff like that. So it's all optional funding. Nobody has to pay anything. And then Dakota and I have come out of pocket, and we will in the future come out of pocket. It's just the nature of what this is going to be. But no, Dakota, any plans, logistics, or events that you want to talk about, let them know.
Yeah, so one of the things so far that I mean that I'm most proud of, I think it was really awesome what we were able to do is when we brought Cam Hurd out, we were able to, bring him out for a 1 hour seminar, totally free to all athletes, which was something like even above and beyond, that was really cool for us to be able to do for the community, right? It's like um, seminars have always been an interesting topic for me because it's like no matter how big the athlete is, $100+ for an hour at a time or 2 hours, you can still be a little bit like, is it going to be worth it? Like, am I actually going to learn anything? Whatever it is. And, that's definitely still easier for some people to pay than others. I mean, some people like really might want to be there and could get a lot from it, but just can't afford it. And so to be able to bring out Cam, and kind of cover those fees and not have to charge anyone at the door so they could come in, get the full, hour session with him. And then not only that, but then he stayed, for Sunday service, trained with the guys. Same with Declan Moody. It's like, they that was back before we were able to fund anything. So they did pay for, people came in and had to pay for his portion of the seminar, which was still pretty cheap. It was a good rate. But then also we talked to Declan, and he stayed also for the 2 hour Sunday service, and trained with people, which was awesome. I mean, people that might normally never get to get real training in, like not just a role, but like real legitimate training in with Declan, like are going live with him and different drills and stuff on the mats. So those two things are really special. And so that being said, for the future, with some of our sponsorships, we do plan on bringing in some guys for more of those, more free seminars and things like that. Some guys that have done really good, like in PGF and whatnot. And then we have been in talks with some even bigger names to bring them out for some seminars, hopefully in the future as well. And like Tony said, it's like ideally, I would love to be able to host a massive seminar for free every other month, right? But for anyone who's never, I think this is good, like kind of behind the scenes look. For anyone who's never had to look at hosting, a big athlete, I mean that range is like from 15 grand to 3 grand to top athletes. Like I think Nicky Rod when he came, not to Sunday service but to something else, I think he was like 4 to 5 grand or something to bring in. So I mean, these guys aren't cheap, and so. But the cool thing that I think about for what we do and kind of what we've been talking about a little more recently is we have enough people attending where in theory, if they wanted to donate, because we call it donate because it's never ever ever going to be a requirement, but if even like half of the athletes that attend donate it like $10 in a month, like not a week, not anything else, just a month, that's enough to cover like an athlete every other month, at least. And so there's some really cool opportunity there that again money's always a weird thing to talk about, and we hate even bringing it up, but it is like one of the things that I think about that's like, hey, for $10, like you're gonna get access to like a high level athlete that you normally would have to pay, $100+ for. And so, talking about the future, like that's some of the stuff we're looking at as well. Is whether hopefully we can do a lot of it through sponsorships and brand deals and whatnot. But I do think there's still a lot of of cool stuff we can do, even just by if enough athletes get behind what we're doing and want to do, $10 a month or whatever it is, even, $5 a month, whatever. And I think that they get a lot out of it. It's like everything that we do is free. You get free giveaways, free training, free seminars. I mean, I think they get a lot for that $10 a month. But yeah, that kind of, I think, covers a little bit of some of the big things that we are looking forward to for the rest of this year for sure.
So with that, talking about, I'm looking at the time as well, and so I'm trying to be respectful to your guys' time. We talked a little bit earlier about how the structure of Sunday service is unique. So the first part of the practice, I really enjoyed that. I run a practice a specific way at TFTC that I've been experimenting with for a while, and yours is very similar to that, but still unique in its own right. And I really enjoyed the first hour, the way you guys had that structured and set up with some of the live drills, especially you guys incorporated some training blades, which I thought was freaking awesome. That was super cool.
I actually didn't mention Black Triangle out of Virginia Beach is one of our sponsors. I glazed right over that. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, that's where the blades came from.
No, that was great. That was fun because it makes you think about things differently. So even not being in a profession, if somebody comes to this practice that's not looking for self-defense application, it still makes you think about unique ways to apply your skill set to the demand. So I thought it was super beneficial across the board the way you guys did that, and I loved it. So as a quick parlay to that, you were talking about bringing athletes in and paying. I will put $200 down for DeAndre Corby right now to come out. I will contribute I'll donate $200 to the cause.
That might already be happening, good sir.
I don't care. I'll still put $200 down.
We appreciate it.
So with that, talk a little bit about how you guys do that, how you guys set up the first hour of training. Because the second half obviously is more traditional open mat, live rolls.
Yeah.
But how do you guys kind of figure out what you can do the first hour?
That's a great question. So there always is a rough format. And I like to, again, keep a rough format, but at the same time be able to add enough variety to it that if you do come every week, that like you're not just going to be doing the same drills every week, right? And I always like to. It's really heavy on like the live work. Everything's live. There's nothing for the most part that's just like regular drilling or anything. It's all live work, all positional work. And, I even venture to say some of it is like the CLA style games. Yeah. I always hate saying that because I know people who are like really dedicated to CLA would probably dissect like what I do. And it's not CLA. It's, there's not enough constraints or, something. So I always hate to like maybe use those terms just in case, but it is definitely at least inspired by it, I would say. But I like to always do it the same way. So in my mind, I always start with hand fighting with some sort of objective. And the reason I do that is because I think hand fighting is one of, if not like the best warm up you can use, because you can hand fight without takedowns. You can hand fight at 100% output without risk of injury because you're not incorporating the takedowns. You're not incorporating, submissions, anything like that. You're really just working your movement on the feet and you're working, the literal hand fighting portion of it, like just, wrist control, collar tie control, whatever it is that the focus is on. But you can like go from cold to like jumping right into that and kind of go 100%. And not to mention, I mean, everyone should be working their hand fighting anyway. I mean, every match, every competition, you're going to start on the feet. I mean, unless obviously there are people that pull guard right away, which we do drills for that as well. But, from the feet, you gotta, even before working your takedown, you have to hand fight. And I think sometimes people even skip over that and just kind of focus on the takedowns themselves and not the setups leading into that. So every session, I always put emphasis on the hand fighting. And again, with an objective, some examples are usually hand fighting with the objective of getting to the back. And again, like Tony said earlier, everything is catch and release. If you get the back, you just connect your hands and then, boom, you got it. You just release and you just keep going. It's all live for usually about 5 minutes or so. We'll hand fight with the objective of getting on a single. And with the single, it's like you get on that single. If you can lift the foot off the floor, that's your, the quote constraint or whatever. Once you get off the floor, you won, let go, keep hand fighting. And then all sorts of just different objectives every time. It might be a body lock. It might be whatever. Some hand fighting is done just from totally disconnected. Some is starting out. Maybe we'll start out with double unders, under over, 2-on-1. Just the variety is endless. But again, it's always hand fighting. From there, we'll usually do some sort of drill from that would incorporate takedowns, right? So it's like we did the hand fighting, now we can add in some takedowns. And then especially I always like to look and see if anyone has any big competitions coming up. Because usually, like if there's something big coming up, there's at least like 10 people in the room that are going to be going to that thing. And so it benefits kind of the majority to put some emphasis on that. So like for ADCC, we really emphasize like takedowns with the ground control to where you would actually score points for ADCC. And we'll even include like, look, if you get the takedown, but they immediately turtle, you haven't scored, so keep going. So we really try to like kind of focus even some of that drilling or those lives like into whatever competitions these guys have coming up. And then from there, usually there's some sort of groundwork, again, some positional style work. And then the last thing that I always like to incorporate, and again, like all of that, there's so much variety you can add into that. But then the last thing I always like to incorporate almost every class is some sort of King of the Hill style drill. And I love, like, I can't stress enough, like, how much I love King of the Hill, because if you're going live with a partner, like, if you start to give less energy because you're tired or whatever, like, your partner will either just smash you, or they'll naturally kind of just start to match your energy, whether they mean to or not. And so you can kind of accidentally almost just not be giving out as much output as maybe you should, for a good training session. But I find with King of the Hill, because you're coming off that wall, and just to explain it a little bit for people that might not know, I usually have about like 8 people on the ground spread out, everyone else on the wall, and they circle off the wall and they grab, whoever's open, right? In the beginning, obviously everyone starts with a partner. And then we'll have some sort of objective. The simplest one is usually just pass, sweep, or submit. So person that comes off the wall is trying to get a pass. Person on bottom is trying to sweep, and then submissions are live for both partners. Whoever wins, whether it's the pass, the sweep, or the submission, whoever wins stays in the middle. So it might be the same person staying in for an hour, or maybe they switch every time. You just, whoever wins. But again, when you come off the wall, you've been resting for a minute off the wall. You come in, you grab your partner, like you're kind of refreshed, right? Like you're ready to go. And now not only are you, have a little bit of time to refresh and kind of think about what your game plan is to attack, but you also kind of have everyone else watching you as well. And there's a little bit more pressure. Like, that winner stays. Everyone's going to see who the winner is. So naturally, even if you don't win, it's like you're going to put in more effort to be able to stay, or to get that win, right? And so, I can't stress enough how much I love using that King of the Hill, just because of the pressure it puts on the people in the middle, to really to get that win objective, again, whether it's the pass, the sweep, or the submission. And I find that works really, really well. And then again, like there might be some high level guys that stay in the middle, for the whole hour. And then I always am like, look, like I'll even sometimes try and point it out, like, hey, look, no one's taking Jack out this whole time. Like somebody needs to get Jack out. And it kind of just becomes more fun, like, kind of a game. Like I just love using that. But yeah, so that's kind of the majority of that first hour training session. Again, it's all live. Always try to be very specific with our objectives. Always try and take into consideration maybe competitions that are coming up in those rule sets to kind of put maybe some guardrails on some of those objectives for training. And then, like you said earlier, it's once we finish roughly that first hour or so, then we just immediately switch over to open rounds, which is also awesome because now you get the added benefit of when you start rolling, you're already like really fatigued, which is, there's that benefit of having to dig deep now when you're going with, with your regular rounds against, really good athletes.
I love the King of the Hill. What is it? Drill. It's the best. Yeah, same thing. Like you have everybody watching you, like, well, it better not suck because now everybody's gonna like. But
and people are cheering you on, like.
Yeah, it's always a good time. Like I've never been one where I'm just like, man, that guy sucks. Fuck him. Like it's never had that attitude. So it's
exactly.
Like, and you get everybody. You like if you say you just open roll 5-minute rounds, you do that for 1 hour. That's it's how many people? Maybe 10 because you got your breaks in between and everything. But this gives you the opportunity to possibly roll with everybody in the room.
Yeah, and it's funny because it also at least a little bit takes out the ability to avoid someone. So like if you're that athlete who naturally is like, oh, I don't know if I want to roll with him, he's a hard roll or whatever it is. Well, when you like, and you'll see it, like athletes still try to do it when it's their turn up next. and the person who's like, maybe one of the hardest roles in the room raises their hand that they're open, you'll see them like trying to look the other way, like, oh, I don't see him. And then the people behind him, like, hey, like, he's open, go over there. And you see him reluctantly go over there and go through the round. And so it does force you to like to do that. And you might still get smashed, but I think there is still that benefit of doing it. And also mentally kind of getting over yourself a little bit and realizing like, oh, I did it. Yeah, I lost. He swept me or he did this or that. But, I'm alive. I'm back in line. It's all good. So I like that part of it too. You can't avoid the people you might normally be avoiding for open roles.
It works really good too with your big group. I know that for me as a coach, I've seen sometimes, depending on the size of the class and the disparity in skill levels that are represented in the class, sometimes the white belts or the lower skilled athletes kind of miss out on some work with King of the Hill if you don't have a big enough group, a big enough variety of people. Like with
Yeah.
you guys, the Sunday service, it works phenomenally because you have 40 people there and there's all skill levels represented. And
Mhm.
so, what ends up happening is that whoever the strongest one is, it stays in for 10, 12 rounds, they get fatigued, and that almost becomes like an individual constraint in of itself because now they're battling fatigue and they may have somebody that's, two belts less experienced than them coming in off the wall fresh, ready to go. And all they got to do is pass, or submit. But if they pass, they win. So like that challenges that higher level athlete to, like you said, fight through the fatigue and find a way, but it also allows that less skilled person to kind of bridge that divide a little bit. So I think that's really, really slick. And then with the training blades, I thought it was cool how you guys had the 8, but every other person that was in the pit didn't have a blade. So now you're starting from that same connected position. I think it was underhook and wrist control, and working from there for takedowns. I thought it was really cool because now with the blade, you could have a super high level competitor that is used to that world and they've got a blade that they're not used to dealing with, and it makes them think different. So all that variety you guys talked about, I think that's what makes it, pretty magical, man. It's fun to see.
Yeah, I think bringing in the blades. So we really don't do it that often. I think we really only do it maybe 2 to 3 times at this point. But it is such a fun drill, and I think it's important. I mean, whether you do it at Sunday service or do it in general, like, even for me, it's like I've used them before, but every time I'm reminded just how dangerous a knife is. Like, I don't care how much jujitsu you do, I don't care how much anything you do, but like if someone's that close to you with a knife, like you really realize quickly, like in these type of drills, the size difference doesn't matter. Nothing matters. It's so hard to control that wrist, and then you bring into the consideration that he can switch hands. Just pass the blade to another hand, or even like while you're trying to control that hand, like the blade can still like be slicing your arm up. Or I mean, there's so many factors to it, and I mean that's super important to I think in general because there's definitely a group of people that like train martial arts. I won't even say just jujitsu, and they're like, oh, a knife, like, I'm not worried about that. I can take care of that. And, uh, I think you find out very quickly, and hopefully you find out in the training room and not in real world scenario. But you find out just how dangerous that is. And, I think, almost any like knife fighting expert that I've talked to, is said, avoid it at all costs. And if be ready, because if you do have to engage with someone with a knife, you are going to get cut. It's not even like they don't even consider it as like a question. It's almost like we're learning how to knife fight because hopefully you don't die, but you will get cut. Like you are going to get cut somewhere. Be ready to deal with that. And but yeah, that's one of the like just the other, like I said, with variety. It's like we always try to change it up and add it in. And that's definitely a fun one. Definitely, like you said, makes you think different, which is always important in jujitsu.
Yeah, it's really what we're shooting for too, is thinkers. You could have a really strong underhook and a cross wrist, right? Which is the setup that we started with, which is a perfect setup for a takedown, a big Uchimata throw or something like that. But if this guy's got a blade, is taking him down a smart move, right? Just because you're set up for a really big throw, actually doing the throw might put you in a more dangerous position than restraining that person in the position that you have, controlling under the chin, getting maybe a 2-on-1 connection to that knife hand. Um, you know, Very, very different goal, and that's what we're trying to achieve is, can I put you in a similar scenario, but you understand that it's a very different scenario, right? The limitations of jujitsu versus adding a weapon. You don't just do exactly what you would do as you slap and fist bump in a tournament if some dude's got a knife in an alleyway, you know? Although I might still pull guard, I wouldn't recommend that people think that way.
No, that's that's a really interesting perspective, and I think it's kind of cool because we go back and forth. Randy and I talk all the time about the competition versus the self defense versus practical application. Like I've said before, if you know enough jujitsu, like you're still can use it for self defense, but now adding in the weapons is something like you said. Can you throw? Because I thought about that. I was like, oh yeah, Uchimata until you land on the knife. There's actually one of my favorite pastimes is watching cops. Like eating a sandwich, watching cops. And I remember there's one episode this woman was trying to stab somebody and just fell on the knife and stabbed herself. So I mean, like, why is that not out of the question? If I've got my underhook, I've got the arm. I'm like, I know Uchimata. Watch this, and I land, and now I've got a knife like in my sternum. So
Yeah.
it's an interesting thing to think about.
Yeah.
Just creating an opportunity for somebody to have a scramble is a horrible idea if that person has a blade.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, and I fell for that, by the way. I know we're getting ready to call here probably in a minute, but I fell for
Oh, you're
that.
good.
I did a throw, landed, and I looked down. And I'm like, I got the throw, but the knife is in my gut now, so I lost the game.
Congratulations.
And I have a SIRT pistol. If you're familiar, it's a red gun. It's got a red dot that comes out of it. Doesn't shoot any projectiles. It's not even capable of doing it. Have you guys ever incorporated any of those in there? Because that's another one that'll humble you quick. I do it with law enforcement officers all the time in training, and it's funny how often you fall into those attractor wells of doing something that sport jiu-jitsu feels right, and then next thing you know, you lost your focus on the firearm, and they're shooting you with the laser. So
yeah, I've done a lot with SIRT, lot with simunitions and stuff like that. That is never probably going to find its way into Sunday service, unfortunately. It's a very, very strong lean towards weapon self-defense and stuff like that. The blades with triangle jiu-jitsu, triangle jiu-jitsu, sorry, not triangle jiu-jitsu, black triangle. I'm a member of triangle jiu-jitsu. Black triangle blades are a sponsor of ours, but they're also very big in the jiu-jitsu community, where some of these SIRT brands and stuff like that leans more out of jiu-jitsu into self-defense. So we did kind of want to dabble in getting people to be thinkers as well as aligning with a really cool sponsor that's already in the space. We at Triangle Jiu-Jitsu now, not Black Triangle, but at Triangle, we do have a bunch of SIRT pistols. Maybe I can grab some and throw them in a drill sometime as a tester. But I don't think we would dive any further than what we did with the daggers. We're going to bring them out for like one ladder, one drill, like a 15-minute kind of introduce some fun and some thinking, and then get kind of right back to the jiu-jitsu grind.
I'll be honest, I think that's perfect.
Yeah,
because I think that there's a lot of people in jiu-jitsu that are not in it for self-defense, and that's completely fine.
Right.
But at least if you get them thinking and aware of these other elements, then God forbid they ever put themselves in a position where they have to do it. At least they've seen it before. You know what I mean? Like I don't teach self-defense jiu-jitsu at the gym I coach at. Right. People just aren't interested in it.
Right.
But I like to occasionally slide a training gun in there randomly, or
don't tell them it's coming, just throw it.
Yeah, exactly. And just so at least they're aware of it. At least they're aware of it, and then we just keep going. So I think you guys are doing it right, but I was just curious.
Awesome. Well, gentlemen, yes, it is that time. Unfortunately, we have to end the episode, but I really do appreciate both of you, or we appreciate both of you coming on, spending a little bit of time on your Saturday talking to us about the Sunday service and what it can offer to everybody. So before we go, though, where can we find you guys on social media? And we'll link it in the description of the episode.
I'm just D Fatter. BJJ on Instagram. And Tony?
I'm one word, random suit and tie on Instagram. That is also my Gmail if you need to send an email for some reason. I operate the Instagram, the Sunday service as well. On that, you can reach out to us through there. You can collaborate with us if you've done anything with us, as well if you want to plan anything in the future. You will also find links to all the stuff that we have as far as sponsor sales, donations, and our calendar. All of that is on our Instagram page right there in the bio or in the highlights at the top of the page. So you don't have to do any scrolling to get all the information of how you can support and when you could show up. You don't have to support other than showing up, and we really look forward to seeing you there.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. This has been a really awesome episode, and I look forward to coming out at some point and hopefully not getting stabbed in middle of a roll. But no, I'm looking
You
forward
never
to it.
know.
You never know. You never know what can happen at a Sunday service, I guess. But ladies and gentlemen, it's been another episode of the Big Jiu Jitsu Show. I'm Rob,
I'm Randy.
and we'll catch you guys next time.